There's no way they glazed Matt Gaetz on TYT. I won't believe it unless you send me footage. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. RFK glazing, I know that Cenk and RFK are boys. I'll believe the RFK glazing. Until I see proof that Matt Gaetz was glazed on TYT, then it's over. It's been over. But boy, that would be over.
Yeah.
Anna said she's going to be open-minded this Trump administration. Oh, I found it. Let's go, gang.
Side, because guess what? They've never heard your side because you keep it hidden in a cave.
Right. They just assume that we should take their word for it without having to hear, any explanation or having them provide any evidence to basically debunk some of the claims that are being made. So you make a good point there. But Cenk, I am not naive, and I know that if he gets confirmed, things could go south. But there's also a possibility that a disruptor in this government agency could be a good thing. Because honestly, when I look at the FDA, for instance, there's a lot of corruption with the FDA. And by the way, we should all be asking.
I've been thinking about the same thing, Gavin. There's a lot of corruption in the medical field. So instead of going to the doctor's office, I've been letting the guy at the bike shop check me out. I'm like, this guy, he's pretty good with his hands. I'll be like, he feels my head. He checks my pulse. His wife comes in and sages the room. I'm just trying to keep him an open mind, right? I think it might be good if our doctors didn't have medical school degrees and instead just had an open mind and a disruptor attitude. What about you, Gavin? I think that'd be pretty smart.
Yeah, that's so dumb. Also, like pretty much everyone that's getting appointed into Trump's administration, it's a result of corruption, like a literal result of corruption. Trump's not picking these people because they're the best individuals to lead these administrations or these departments. No, that's how it should be done. You pick the person that would best lead the organization,
lead
right?
the troops. Yeah.
Instead, Trump is just picking the people who helped him out the most on the campaign trail, the people that promised him the most and helped him win the race. That's literal corruption.
Yeah, and this right here is an example of that. You guys might remember the leaked phone call from during that race that RFK tried to pretend was a scandal and that he was so embarrassed about, but basically it was Trump offering him a quid pro quo, like drop out of the race and endorse me, and I'll give you a spot in my administration. But let's hear a little bit more from Anna Kasparian if you're up for it, Gavin.
Why is it that we live in a country that has all these regulations supposedly, but every week you hear about a listeria outbreak in our food, you hear about E. coli outbreaks. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I haven't seen this, so I didn't know when to jump in and not jump in. But Gavin, I know you have a lot to say about this. I have a lot to say about this. America's Food and Drug Administration is based. It's based as let me say it again, louder and louder for the people in the back. It's based as that we have that. Is it problematic around the edges? Yes, but even wackadoo guys, like I remember on the Joe Rogan Experience back in the day, they were talking about what an incredible feat it is that whenever you go anywhere in America and you buy meat and you buy dairy and you buy all kinds of shit and you never worry about getting sick. You never worry about getting sick. In fact, Anna Kasparian is about to pearl clutch about like the slivered onions in McDonald's right now, having an E. coli outbreak, right? Because it's so unfathomable in this country that we would let that happen. Do you remember when it almost took out Chipotle because they had an E. coli outbreak? We do not tolerate that shit here. And it's because one of the few effective government bodies that we have is the Food and Drug Administration, and it's antiquated and it could be upgraded and we could do a lot to improve it, but it prevents people from getting sick. And if you want to let an asshole like Bobby Kennedy go in there and disrupt the FDA, you're a lunatic.
Also, I can't believe that Anna could even say this with a straight face. The whole reason why that outbreak with the deli meat occurred was because Donald Trump deregulated these industries. Remember that happened with I think it was like Boar's Head deli meat or whatever.
I do remember that.
Pretty popular company. People specifically traced that back. That whatever the listeria or whatever the hell it was,
yeah.
That was because of the deregulations that occurred under Donald Trump. That's the blood is on his hands. He's literally responsible for over 10 people's deaths just so that meat companies could make a little bit of extra money at the expense of our health.
On food being recalled all the time because of these issues. And it's because of the lack of regulations that the FDA is totally willing to provide cover for, because they've got some cozy relationships with industry as well. And so when I read about how, RFK Jr. will be tasked with
This is the literal propaganda machine working right now, guys. Watch this progressive news network do absolutely no serious analysis of what happened there, draw conclusions that are wildly inaccurate, get debunked passively by Gavin about how this actually began under the Donald Trump administration. And also, Anna, when you start talking about how, regulation, we need a disruptor, they're going to do that with fracking. They're going to do that with offshore drilling. They're going to do that with the Food and Drug Administration. They're going to start letting people sell quack medicine as real medicine, guys. And that's another thing that we haven't talked about, Gavin, but that's really vile and pernicious. Poor, desperate people are going to be sold quack medication that looks real now, and it's going to be cutting edge, and they're going to be able to lie to people and say that, Big Pharma doesn't want you to have this because it's a competitor to what they're offering. Meanwhile, it hasn't passed any double-blind studies either, right? But because some shaman from wherever the RFK vacations with Aaron Rodgers that it's going to inject in your ball sack, let's pass it through.
Are you telling me that ivermectin will finally be readily available to all Americans? Hell yeah.
rooting out corruption within this government agency, that kind of rhetoric excites me. And if they actually carry that out, I mean, that could be a legendary part of Donald Trump's administration. Now, that's if things go well. Okay. Obviously, I am not naive and things could really go poorly. We'll see.
So look, as with the entire Trump administration,
they're basically saying, this might have a big upswing. That's what Dave Smith said about his war cabinet to get a bunch of people to get on board with Donald Trump right before he went neocon city to the moon. Oh, embarrassing shit from TYT.
What does Cenk say?
It could go very poorly or interestingly positive in some ways, right?
Interestingly positive. He's trying his best.
He's trying to spin it for RFK. And you guys remember, Cenk and RFK are friends, even though they ran against each other. They both pretended to run for president. How sweet, But anyway, thanks for that super chat. Really appreciate that. That was a nice little react along. And a Kasparian reaching new lows.